Hello everyone, and welcome to our TracerPlus Connect webinar, a closer look at profiles and processes. I am your presenter, Joe Crable. I am a mobile solutions specialist here at PTS. So what we're going to talk about today is the use of profiles and processes within our TracerPlus Connect software. So a process is basically a configuration of a single set of instructions used to, sync a particular set of data from a source to a destination. That could be something such as syncing an item list to a device or syncing data collected from the device to a destination. A synchronization profile is actually a grouping of individual processes, usually set up to perform similar tasks, such as syncing data from a deliver list as well as syncing data maybe to a deliver list dropdown. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is open our TracerPlus desktop software, and I'm going to go ahead and grab a solution off of our online solutions center. This will make it easier for you to go ahead and try what I'm doing when this presentation concludes. So I'm going to search for our route accounting and delivery of goods. Once that imports, I'm going to go ahead and click the Finish button. So once we do that, we're presented with the application within TracerPlus Desktop. You'll see it's two sessions. One is Deliver Goods and one is Deliver Lists. The Deliver List will basically be a set of data that's going to be loaded to the device, giving the driver, whoever's making the deliveries, basically their deliveries for the day. Once they go to the Deliver Goods session, they'll select an order number from the drop-down list. It'll then filter down to the items that are to be delivered for that order, and then they'll have the opportunity to collect a signature confirming delivery. I'm going to go ahead and deploy this to my mobile device. So there's the application deployed to my device. As you can see, we have no items or no records in our deliver list or deliver goods session. So now what I'm going to do is go over to our TracerPlus Connect product, and we're going to create some syncing, basically some sync processes and profiles for this particular project. So what I'm going to do is click the New button to create a new project. Then I'm going to click the Add Profile. So what that'll do is add a profile to our profile configuration area, and then I'll go ahead and click this plus sign to add a process to that profile. So maybe this particular profile is named Deliver Goods. Then we could define each individual process by naming it. So we'll name this Sync Deliver Lists to Device. Then what you can do within each process is define a source and destination. So the source of this is going to be a database, Excel sheet, text file, somewhere where you're actually going to get the data from. So in this case, I'm going to use our sample database, so I'm going to select ODBC. And for the data source, I'm going to select our TracerPlus Connect sample. And once you do that, you'll see a listing of tables within that database. So we actually have a set of data that's set to work with this particular project out of the box. So I'm going to select our Deliver List table here. Once we do that, I'm going to go ahead and define our destination, which is going to be TracerPlus. Then we can tie our particular project to this by opening the desktop project within Connect. So I'm going to look for our Deliver Goods, and I'm going to select it. Once we do that, you'll see our available sessions within that project. So in this case, we're going to be syncing to the Deliver List, so I'm going to select that from the drop down here. You can also choose, depending on the session selected, you can choose session data, or there's also an option for any drop-down fields you may have. So if I had a drop-down field in here, we would also see that. So you could sync directly to a drop-down list. But in this case, we're doing session data. Once we define our source and destination, you'll see our field mappings take place below. and everything appears to be set up accordingly, so we'll leave that as is. So I'll go ahead and save the project. We can name this, let's see, Deliver Goods. And here's where the use of profiles comes in handy. Since each profile is synced at a time, it's a good idea to actually separate profiles into different groupings depending on what data you want to sync and when you actually want to sync it. So in this case, I wouldn't continue to add a process to this particular profile, as we would usually want to sync the deliver list to the device at a different time than when we would actually want to sync the collected data. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and add another profile. And maybe we'll name this profile Deliveries. And we'll go ahead and add a process to it like we did before. So the first process we want to do is sync our deliveries, which is from our session 1. So we'll call this sync deliveries. This will be a source of TracerPlus since it's coming from the device. I'll go ahead and look at open our project again. Deliver goods. And we will be grabbing from the Deliver Goods session, so I'll leave that selected. Next, our destination will be ODBC. Pick our Connect sample again. And the table we're going to go to is Deliver Goods. So in this case, you'll see below the mappings don't quite line up. So I'm going to go ahead and make some adjustments here. So we'll remove that ID field as we don't need it. Then we'll move this delivered field down. And then we'll match that up so that delivered goes to delivered, and we'll remove the last row. So there's our mappings configured. Next thing we'll want to define is our destination options, which is what we want to happen to the data once it's posted to the table. In this case, I'm going to do an update existing append if not found, which basically means that when you sync the data over, it'll search out based on this particular order number field that I'm setting here. If there happens to be a row in there for that order number, it'll go ahead and update that record. If not, it'll add a new record. Then also we're going to define our options for source. In this case, once we actually sync the deliveries, we're going to want to remove them from the device. So we're going to turn on that delete after transfer. Now we want to add a second process to this profile to basically update the deliver list. So we're going to name that update deliver list. Once again, our source is TracerPlus. We're going to select our project. This time for this session, we'll select deliver list. Our destination is ODBC using our Connect sample, and also we'll be syncing to the deliver list. So once we do that, you'll see that our mappings do line up correctly, so we don't have to do anything there. So now I'm going to go over to my destination options. Once again, we're going to just update existing at this point because we shouldn't have any deliveries that do not exist already. So we're going to update this based on the order number as well as the item number, as multiple items can reside on the same order. We're also going to set up a sync filter. So what we're going to do is when the delivered status, you'll see here a comparison type, when we set that to equals, and then we'll define a value of true, and then we turn on this delete after transfer. What that'll do is only sync data where that delivered field equals true. Once it does, it'll remove only those records from the device. So anything not delivered will still remain on the device itself. I'll also go back to my sync deliver list in our first profile, as I realize we didn't define any destination options here. In this particular case, we're syncing to the device. I'm going to select the overwrite function. Then for our options, I'm also going to add a sync filter here where delivered equals false, so that it only gets the data that should be delivered or hasn't been delivered yet, set as false and is ready to be delivered. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. So now that our Connect configuration is all set, I'm going to go back over to desktop here. And we still have to configure a few things. The first being the data integration portion. So this is going to be basically where or what PC Connect is going to be running on. So I'm going to run this on my local PC, so I'm going to enter my address here. You can also enter the PC name. If you're using DHCP, that may be useful. So this will basically, when the PDA goes to sync, it's going to look for this IP address and then proceed with the sync. So one other thing I want to add here is a sync session. Basically a session that's used to trigger the actual syncs. This allows you to perform wireless syncs while not connected to the cradle. So I'll create my third session here. We'll name it sync data. Then we'll start from a blank canvas here, and we're going to add a couple buttons. First button being our exit button to leave this form. So we'll set that as an action of done. Then we'll configure two sync buttons. Basically a sync button per profile that we configured, since we configured two profiles. So we'll name this our sync deliver data from PC. And then the button action set for this is going to be a do sync. Once you select that, you'll see a sync host ID and sync profile ID. The host ID is going to be grabbed from this area here. You'll see by default we have our host ID of 1. So that's what we're going to use for our sync host ID option. And then our profile ID is actually set to the profile you want to sync with this button. So if we go back to Connect, you'll see that each profile has a profile ID. So you'll see the delivered goods is profile ID 1, Deliveries is profile ID 2. So in this case, since we're syncing the first profile, we're going to go ahead and set that to a profile ID of 1. And we can make this button bigger. And for our second button, we'll just call this Sync Deliveries. Once again, a button action of do sync. Our same sync host ID of 1, but this time we're going to be syncing profile ID 2. So we'll set that to a value of 2. And I can align these buttons, make them the same size. We'll go ahead and save and then deploy. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just disconnect from the cradle here and connect to this via Wi-Fi. Okay, so there's our newly deployed project. You'll see we have the sync data option available now. So once again, if I go to our deliver list, you'll see that there's no data in there. So now if we come back over to Connect, we have a synchronized window where you can kind of monitor the progress of syncs going on. So now we'll go back to the data entry area, hit sync data, and here you give the user the opportunity to sync which profile they want or which data they want. So I'll go ahead and click the sync deliver data from PC. You'll see the sync actually took place. It was rather quickly. So we'll go back, we'll look at our deliver list. You'll see we now have 8 records. One thing to notice is the delivered column. You'll see a value of false. So if we go to make some deliveries, we'll go to deliver goods. We'll select an order. Once we do that, you'll see the items to deliver appear in the grid below. So we'll go ahead and you can either scan or key these items in. As they're scanned in, the description is found. Then you can submit. And as they're actually delivered, you'll see they get removed from the list. So once all the items have been delivered, we'll click our Acknowledge tab. And this is where the customer can sign for those items delivered. So we'll sign, and then you can actually type in the name since most signatures are not legible. See our delivered date. Once we do that, we'll go ahead and hit Save Record. So now if we go back to our deliver list, you'll see that the delivered status for those particular items have been updated to true. So now if I do a sync data, and this time we want to sync deliveries, that'll go ahead and process, sync the data from our 2 sessions. Now if I come back to Connect, it actually has a built-in data viewer. So if I look at our destination data, here's our deliver good header record. This will show the date, the order number, whether it was delivered or not. It also references a signature file name as well as the print name. Now this signature file name is actually defined in this Advanced tab here. If we look under Destination Advanced, there's a binary file path. This is a path where you can set for the actual bitmap files to sync to. If you're not syncing to a database field, like MySQL or SQL has image options where you can sync directly to that field, it'll actually sync the image file to that destination. So I'll go ahead to that destination, and that's just in our PTS, TracerPlus Connect, and bin. So there's our signature file. So now if we go back to Connect and our data viewer, then go to our deliver lists, you'll see that 3 of our records here have been updated with the status of delivered as well as the date they were delivered. So the next thing I want to show is the ability to sync the different profiles using different methods. Let's say when you actually make deliveries, you want to sync the data on a submit. So what I can do here is add another button. We'll just name it sync. We're not actually going to press this button, but we'll set that up to do sync. The host ID, once again, is 1. The profile ID we want to sync is 2. Then we'll also set this control index to be something I know will be unique, so we'll set that to 100. Then for this Save Record button, you'll see the submit action has a go-to control index. So if we set that to 100, as we submit the record, it'll then go to that sync button, automatically trigger it for you, and then sync the items over. And then I go ahead and I'll do a deploy. This kind of takes the user interaction out of it when it comes to syncing, and being able to separate these into different profiles, allows you to sync only the data that they're going to need. So we'll go to our deliver goods. I selected our second order. We're presented with 2 items to deliver, so I'll key those in. So once we go to acknowledge, we'll go ahead and capture the signature, type in the name, and then once we hit the Save Record button, let me go ahead and bring Connect open again. We'll hit that Save Record and it'll attempt to do that sync automatically. So now it's going to sync our 2 processes within that profile. Okay, our sync is successful. So now if we exit that, and if we just look at our deliver list, you'll see that we're actually removing the values or the items that were set to true when delivered. So now we're just left with 3 items to deliver. So if we go back to Connect now, we refresh this. Here's our second delivery we just did. That updated our delivered and date delivered for those items. And if we go to sync deliveries, we have our second delivery. You would also have a second image in that folder that I showed you before. Last thing I want to show is a timed sync. So let's say each morning at a certain time you want to automatically sync the list of deliver items to the device. So basically when the driver comes in, he picks up the device and he's good to go. He doesn't have to interact with the device or press a sync button. So in this case you can add a sync timer, and you'll notice that each sync timer can be assigned to a specific profile ID. So once again, that's where the use of the different profiles comes in handy. So we are going to sync profile ID 1. The host ID, we're going to sync host ID 1. As you'll see, that's the only option. And you can also choose an interval of how often to do the sync. So if you wanted to do syncs throughout the day, you could set this to be 2, 4, 6 hours each time. You would set that in seconds, but you could run a sync, every 2, 4, 6 hours. In this case, for the demo, I'm just going to set it to 30 so it happens quickly. Also, we have sync conditions. This is kind of how you can control a specific time for this sync to happen. So what you could do is add 2 date times. So you could set a before time. So let's say before 7:02 a.m. and then another one that's after 7 a.m. So what that'll do is allow the sync to only happen during 7 o'clock and 7:02 a.m. and it'll try to sync for every 30 seconds. You could also narrow that time frame down. But that's a good way to schedule a sync at a specific time. I'm not going to do it in this case, so I'm just going to remove those conditions. You also see that those conditions can be assigned to a specific profile ID. So let me just cradle my device here. What I'm also going to do is just clear out the database just to show you that it does work. So if I go to our Connect directory and open up our database, I'm just going to go to our deliver list and uncheck all these items. And then close it. Let's deploy to the device. Okay, and if we come back to Connect, go to our sync page, and our automatic sync should happen probably in about 20 more seconds. Oh, there it goes. So there's your automated sync without any interaction. If we go to our deliver list, we now have our 8 records again. So if TracerPlus is open, that sync timer will take effect. Keep in mind, if TracerPlus is closed on the device, that sync process or timed sync will not work. So that pretty much concludes what I wanted to show you today, and the benefits of using different profiles for your sync processes.